Hello everyone in the multiverse and beyond. This is your friend forever, Evan Lefavor, and welcome to the best review of The Last of Us 2 on the internet. That's right, and as always, the first half of this review will be completely spoiler-free. And then we will get into a deep dive into the detailed spoiler-filled review of this game right here. It's here. The Last of Us 2. We've been waiting how many fucking years now? Since 2013? 7 long, agonizing years. And if you have not played the original Last of Us through to the conclusion, please leave now. What are you doing? Go play The Last of Us on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3 or however you want. And do it and then come back and watch this so you can catch up with all of us who enjoyed the original The Last of Us. And let me preface this by saying that the original Last of Us was one of my top 10 games of all time, one of my favorite games ever. The original Last of Us set a new benchmark for interactive entertainment, and Naughty Dog truly evolved the entire medium of gaming to the whole next level with that game. All right? So, needless to say, I was invested all the way in our characters from the original game, right? Which, of course, we know are Joel and Ellie, and now the time has come to see the next chapter in their journey, The Last of Us 2. What did I think of it? What did I think of The Last of Us 2? I just beat the game moments before starting this review, and the energy inside of me. Let me put it to you like this, guys. The Last of Us 2. You want to know what it is? You want to know what it is? Here's a spoiler-free explanation of what The Last of Us 2 is. The Last of Us 2 is the best action game ever created. That's right, the best action game ever made, hands down, The Last of Us 2. Guess what else The Last of Us 2 is? The Last of Us 2 is the greatest stealth game ever created. That's right, move over, Metal Gear Solid. There's a new king on the throne, and its name is The Last of Us 2. All right. Guess what? What else is The Last of Us 2? It's the best zombie game ever made. That's right. Right? I know Resident Evil 2, the remake, was an amazing game, guys, and there's been a lot of great zombie games. There's been some horrible ones over the years, but The Last of Us 2 is undeniably the greatest zombie game ever created. What else is The Last of Us 2? It's the best survival game ever. Right? Move over, Minecraft, all these other survival games where you have to manage your health and craft items and survive and resource manage. The Last of Us is the best of them all. What else is it? The Last of Us 2 is the best post-apocalyptic game ever made. When it comes to exploring a post-apocalyptic world, it does not get any better than The Last of Us 2 in any medium, whether it's gaming, movies, anything. Okay? What else is The Last of Us 2? It is the best role-playing game ever made. That's right, The Last of Us 2 is an RPG, guys. All right, story plays a huge role. Characters play a huge role. The plot plays a huge role in everything that makes The Last of Us 2 what it is. And speaking of what it is, The Last of Us 2 is an action RPG, and not only is it an action RPG, it's the greatest action RPG ever made. Right? The Last of Us 2 is an action RPG, and some people might not know that about this game. They might go into it thinking it's just an action game, and they'll be surprised to find out that this is indeed an action RPG, where Naughty Dog has seamlessly blended action gameplay with RPG mechanics such as leveling up your equipment, rich story filled with characters you care about. At its heart, it is a role-playing game, guys, and an action RPG, the best action RPG ever made. As a matter of fact, The Last of Us 2 is the best console game ever made. As a matter of fact, The Last of Us 2 was the best PlayStation 4 game ever made. You know what The Last of Us 2 is? It's the best PlayStation game ever made. You know what The Last of Us 2 is? It is the greatest video game ever created. The greatest piece of interactive entertainment ever created, and I'm gonna tell you why. Why? Where do I start? Where do I start? The visuals? Should we take a look at the visuals? The fact that The Last of Us 2 has the most realistic computer-generated characters, not only in any video game, but any entertainment medium known to man. That's right. The characters in The Last of Us 2 that are being rendered in real time on the PlayStation 4 hardware are actually more lifelike and realistic than a lot of Hollywood movies and any other video games that have come before them, achieving a level of realism that is unparalleled. Okay? Because Naughty Dog, not only do they provide you with the realistic graphics in this game, but they bring the realism when it comes to the characters within this game, the situations within this game. Everything to do with this game, including the violence, is taken to a much more realistic level than it's ever been. All right? The Last of Us 2, what do you need to know about it? There's 3 core gameplay elements of The Last of Us 2. There is adventure exploration gameplay. There is adventure exploration gameplay where you are just exploring the world, either alone or with one of your companions. And you're just exploring this post-apocalyptic wasteland and scavenging for this and that and just researching the stories of what happened in these places you're exploring. And it's captivating, to say the least. When it comes to adventure exploration, nobody does it better than The Last of Us 2. Let me tell you. And the second core gameplay mechanic of The Last of Us 2 is stealth. That's right, stealth gameplay plays a big role in The Last of Us 2, right? That means you're going to do a lot of sneaking to save your ass, because ammo and resources are so scarce that you're going to have to sneak around to get shit done. Okay, in this game, you're going to have to do a lot of sneaking, more so fighting and action and shooting. Sure, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of action moments in this game where you do have to shoot. And that brings me to the third element of this game. The third most prominent gameplay mechanic in The Last of Us is, of course, the action. And I'm telling you right now, The Last of Us 2 is the most intense interactive and entertainment experience I have ever had the pleasure of going through. All right, this is not just a video game. This is an experience from start to end. This game takes things to a whole new level, guys. From the beginning to end, you are on a roller coaster ride the whole way through. And the action scenes in this game are some of the most pulse-pounding, exhilarating entertainment experiences I have ever experienced in my life. And I've seen so many fucking good movies. I've played so many fucking good games. I've been through so many experiences in real life that were exhilarating. And I'm fucking telling you, The Last of Us 2 is up there on the list with some of the most exhilarating things I have ever experienced. And it is amazing that this video game was able to achieve that, and I've never seen it in another game, the way this game sucks you in. All right? The Last of Us 2, it feels like you're really there. This game feels real, and everything in this game is real, including the depictions of violence in this game. The depictions of violence in this game are the most realistic they've ever been in a video game. And it's not just because of the way they're being visually depicted, because yes, there's a lot of graphic visual violence in this game, but the whole concept of violence itself is the most realistic it's ever been portrayed in this game, because there are repercussions for the violence in this game, that these characters within this game, including the enemies, feel like real, living, breathing characters with a story, a past, and violence is the centerpiece of the moral of the story of this game. This game in and of itself is an exploration of violence, okay? Without giving any spoilers, okay? I'm not going to tell you what stance the game takes on violence, but it is about violence, trust me. All right? And when you play this game is going to force you to question violence as being an acceptable solution for any problem in the real world or in video games. So for that, The Last of Us 2 makes you think, and that is why a lot of people are not going to understand this game. Because The Last of Us 2 is high art. It is high art of the highest degree and highest caliber. Do you understand that? That if this were a film, if The Last of Us 2 were a film, it would win every single award at the Academy Awards, every single Oscar for every single category. It would win them all. This game has perfect music. It has perfect graphics. It has perfect gameplay, a perfect story, perfect writing, perfect everything. And it begs to be played more than once. This game begs to be played again and again, right? But there are some people who are not going to understand this game, like racists, bigots, and homophobes. They're Nazis. They're not going to enjoy playing The Last of Us Part 2 for various reasons, okay? And then there's other people who aren't in that category, who aren't going to like the game because they just don't understand it, because much like other forms of high art, whether it's films or a painting on a wall or a poem, only certain people can appreciate high art and actually understand it for what it is and go deep dive with it, right? And then there's other people who you play them a movie that is an artistic masterpiece and they're bored, or they don't understand it, or they didn't like it. They'd rather watch Fast and Furious 10. All right? So yes, there are a boatload of gamers who probably bought The Last of Us 2 thinking they're going to get the next action experience that it's going to be like Halo and Gears of War and zombies and this. They think it's going to be like an Xbox game, and they find out, no, this is an artistic masterpiece that is doing all this shit on so many different complex layers and levels and putting you through such a crazy, wild experience. And a lot of people aren't ready for it, guys. But I was ready for it. Luckily, I didn't have any of the game spoiled for me before I played the game. And let me tell you, that's why I'm glad I didn't spoil anything. Hopefully anything I've just said isn't been a spoiler at all for you, other than the game is fucking good. The game is fucking great, okay? So, what's my review? It's a 10 out of 10 game, a 10 out of motherfucking 10. All right, if I could give it an 11, I would. As a matter of fact, it's one of the on my reviews, one of the rarest achievements you can get is scoring an 11 out of 10. And The Last of Us 2 is that fucking good. Now, we are about to do what we came here to do, and that's talk about The Last of Us 2. And now it's time for the spoiler review. So if you don't want spoilers, you know what to do. I implore you, do not watch the rest of this if you have not played The Last of Us 2 through to conclusion. Because I don't want to spoil the game for you, and hopefully the game has not been spoiled. So turn away now if you don't want The Last of Us 2 spoiled for you. Hooty hoo, ooh wee. Here we go, guys. Are you ready? The Last of Us 2. Wow. What a game, guys. What a fucking experience. 7 years is a long time to wait to see what's going to happen next with Joel and Ellie. And for the first 15 hours or so of The Last of Us 2, you get to see that experience, right? You get to be back with Joel and Ellie and catch up on old times and see what happened since the end of the first game, and all these unanswered questions are finally answered, and you get to see the next stage of this story. And it's fucking good. It's fucking great. All right? Now, just because this is a spoiler review, I'm not going to go deep into spoilers and explain to you everything that happens in the game. It's just that this shit might contain spoilers. So, what is so good about The Last of Us 2? That first 15 hours, as a fan of the original Last of Us, I was eating it up. I was eating it up. This thrilling tale of revenge. And for those first 15 hours, man, I was on the ride. I was right there with Ellie, and I was on the trail of revenge to hunt down Abby. That first 15 hours of the game, Naughty Dog gets you to hate the character of Abby. As a matter of fact, that whole first 15 hours are all about hunting her down and killing her. That's the object of the game. And then 15 hours go by, and Naughty Dog pulls the old switcheroo, and suddenly you're no longer playing as Ellie, and now you are forced to play as Abby. And I was like, what? Sure, a lot of people at this point are like, what? Because obviously Naughty Dog took a big risk doing this. Right? We all know what happened with Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 released, and everybody thought they were going to be able to play the whole game as this character that they loved named Solid Snake. And they get the game, and they're playing as Solid Snake, and then shortly after the beginning of the game, the old switcheroo, and suddenly you're no longer playing as your favorite character. Now you're playing as this brand new character that's just being introduced in this game for the first time. That's what happened in Metal Gear Solid 2 with the character of Raiden becoming the main character suddenly. And it was met with some of the biggest backlash in video game history because people didn't care about this character. And I came to realize, and a lot of people came to realize, that it's an important part of video games that you like the character that you're controlling, right? To some degree, whether it be minute or you love them. You like them a little or you love them. Either way, playing as a video game character, you have to at least like them to the smallest degree. to have any kind of fulfilling experience playing as them in a video game. And Raiden in Metal Gear Solid, a lot of people hated him, a lot of people didn't like him, a lot of people did not play that game because they didn't want to play as him, they wanted to play as Solid Snake. So, needless to say, it was a big risk for Naughty Dog to not only force the gamer to play as a character they don't like, but to force them to play as a character they hate. When you start controlling Abby, you hate her at that point. All right? And so it is a shocking experience to play The Last of Us 2 for the first time. And I stress for the first time because The Last of Us 2 is a game that begs to be played 2 times at the very least. Because when you start to play The Last of Us 2 for the second time, knowing full well what happens in the entire game, you see the entire events of the game from a new perspective. And you become more apprehensive to use violence as a solution for your problems in this game. That somehow this game itself takes you on such a roller coaster ride of a journey that you are questioning even using violence within this world of a video game. Okay? So The Last of Us Part 2 throws you the curveball. Suddenly you're playing as Abby. And when this happened to me, I was apprehensive. I was like, okay, what? Naughty Dog is going to try to convince me to have sympathy for Abby, the character they just spent 15 hours getting me to hate. They're going to try to convince me now to have sympathy for her and to have sympathy for her friends who I just went and got revenge on. Like, I was apprehensive because that's the path I could see them trying to lay out in front of me. And I said, you know what? There's no way I'm going to be Team Abby at the end of this. It doesn't matter what Naughty Dog's going to show me. I'm not going to be Team Abby at the end of this, right? So I think me and a lot of other gamers for a little while there felt like the next 10 hours of the game where you have to control Abby, some of it is a little painstaking because suddenly you're being asked to be invested in these characters that your only investment up until that point was hating them and wanting to get revenge on them. So this momentum that the original game had, where you were with Joel and Ellie and you're on the journey and you want to see what happens next, like that whole momentum is missing from The Last of Us 2 once you switch over to Abby. The only momentum you have is in your mind going, wow, I can't wait to play as Ellie again. I can't wait to play as Ellie again. And that's not a good position to put the gamer the first time they're playing through a game. Have them just wishing for this part to get over with so they can get back to playing as the main character. Because once that gamer makes that choice in their mind, they're going to dread the next 10 hours of the game and probably not even finish it. But luckily, I stuck with The Last of Us 2, of course, and by the end of it, I can't believe it, I started to become Team Abby, right? But at first I wasn't. You know why? Because in The Last of Us Part 1, my favorite moment in gaming ever was when you rush into that hospital room and they're about to cut into Ellie and the doctors have their hands up and you just, boom, I shot that doctor. In The Last of Us, the original game, that was my favorite time killing a bad guy in a video game ever, was when I shot that doctor that was about to operate on her. That was such a pivotal moment in that game, and it was so fulfilling, right? Because that's your girl. You can't let them do that to her. You're saving her, man. And so for that doctor to turn out to be Abby's father, to me, that was genius. The fact that she's on this revenge mission to get back at Joel for killing her father. It's fucking epic. Okay, for that moment, that was so fulfilling to me to shoot that dude because he was about to, cut into Ellie. And for that to turn out to be Abby's dad in the second game, you find that out, that was just mind-blowing. And the thing is, what you come to realize is this game is mind-blowing on so many complex levels. This game explores so many different things, right? This game explores the fact that there are two sides to every story, that there are two sides to every war, and it explores violence and war from a perspective that does not glorify it, but actually makes you critical of things such as violence and war and them being acceptable or not in our world. And that on each side of war are real lives. On the side of violence, on the other end of violence, are real lives, right? And it explores concepts of war and violence and revenge. And they explore it on a level that makes you question violence, makes you question war in the real world, right? And even in the fake world, in the world of The Last of Us 2. All right? Now, there's moments in this game where you don't want to do things, where you don't want to do what the game is trying to get you to do. And the cool part about it is it is the game itself. The game itself has made you feel that way by the way it has given a realistic depiction of violence. And when I say realistic, again, I'm talking about the consequences of the violence. The fact that this character you shot in the first game that you thought was just some enemy, just some random enemy, turns out to have a daughter that's going to come after you for revenge. Okay? Like, it puts a name and a face to these nameless and faceless enemies that you have shot and killed over and over again in all these different video games. For the first time, The Last of Us 2 has depicted violence in a way that doesn't glorify it, that doesn't reward the player for committing violent acts. So it actually explores violence in an anti-violence way. It's a violent video game that is made in the name of anti-violence. Okay, because by the end of the game, when Abby and Ellie are fighting each other, you just don't want them to fight. You don't want to see them hurt each other anymore. And it's hard to go through with it. Okay, it's hard to go through with the fight. Because by that point, you do kind of care for both of them. Even if you're Team Ellie, you do care for Abby at that point. Because Abby showed you mercy. Okay? She showed you mercy. And which brings us to one of the best aspects of the game is the relationship between Ellie and Dina, which I think is one of the best relationships I've ever seen in a video game or any entertainment medium. I think it's one of the most realistic relationships and one of the relationships you can get behind when it comes to fictional characters in a video game, right? And the fact that you get to this point in the game where Abby could have killed you guys, but she let you live, and then it's years later, and it's you and Dina, and you're living on the farm raising goats like you wanted to, and you got the little kid, the little baby. Like, when you get to that point, it's like the game has showed you so much violence and revenge that it actually simulates having post-traumatic stress. Because you're like walking through the farm and you go to the barn to put the goats away. And you're like, the whole time in the back of your mind, you're like, is someone going to jump out and try to get me for revenge? Is someone going to try to, every time you're alone in the barn, it feels like someone's going to jump out at you. You know, oh shit, every second you're worrying, oh, is someone gonna attack my family next? Like, the video game actually puts you in a state of post-traumatic stress when you get to this point in the game. And that's an effective video game. And then, of course, the big exploration of revenge. Ellie goes back to get revenge one last time on Abby. She ends up saving Abby's life, but she does get into a fight with her, you know. And in the process, she loses her fingers to play the guitar with. She loses her relationship and her perfect family life she had with Dina. Right? She gave up her perfect family life. She had a wife and a kid, and they had their dream house and the goats and everything. She gave it up for revenge in the name of vengeance. And sure, because of what she did, it saved Abby's life. Abby lived to see another day. Right? But Ellie sacrificed her perfect life. So it's a heartbreaking game. I cried multiple times while playing The Last of Us 2. Not just at the sad parts, but at the touching parts as well. This game is so good that it will move you to tears. Right? And like I said, the action is so fucking intense. Your heart will be pounding. Right? When you're in these action scenes and all this crazy shit's going on, your heart is pounding the entire fucking time. And it's fucking amazing. So, yeah, it shows you, yeah, there are two sides to every story. And I like that, yeah, The Last of Us 2 finally has been a video game where instead of just going around killing all the bad guys, that it actually explores what is good, what is bad, who is a good guy, who is a bad guy. Like, you know, there's consequences for this kind of violence. And I like that this game is not just trying to visually depict violence in a realistic way, but in a realistic way that's metaphorical and just showing you that violence is bad. And a lot of people say, oh, The Last of Us 2 is they're trying to put propaganda, it's a message movie because, one of the main characters is a lesbian and there's a trans character in it. And it's like, oh, they're trying to push an agenda. But no, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. The only agenda this game pushes is one of nonviolence and anti-war. All right? If there's any hidden message in this game, it's anti-violence, anti-war. Okay? Because there are moments in this game where you would rather even just quit playing the game than keep going down this violent path. Where you would rather quit pushing the button than keep the fight going. And that's powerful. That's powerful if a video game has that strong of a message about how revenge and violence and all that, two wrongs don't make a fucking right. Right? That is the message. If you want a message, that's the message, okay? It's not all this other shit and people who hate this game. So yes, the thing about The Last of Us 2 is the first time you play it, when you start playing as Abby, it might feel kind of strenuous to get through it. Like I said, by the end of it, you do actually grow to appreciate her. And I think that moment for me was when she showed mercy to Ellie and Dina and let them live after what they did, after what Ellie did. That's showing that did show Abby's character. And it gave me some respect for her. And here's the thing. Naughty Dog got me to care about Abby. They got me to respect her character by the end of the game. So here's the cool thing. Now you can play Last of Us 2 again and you can see it from a whole nother perspective. You can see things that you didn't pick out the first time and you care about Abby. So when you're playing as her, you're not trying to just get back to playing as Ellie again to see what happens next in the story. You can actually sit back and go, okay, I'm gonna enjoy the ride this time and have fun, because it's fun. It's fun out there exploring, and that's what's great about The Last of Us 2 is the exploration. You feel like you're on an adventure. This game makes you feel like you're on a real adventure with real people. I should have mentioned it in the non-spoiler section, but yes, this game, like no other game before it, simulates chilling with people, going on adventures with people, going on hikes, going on walks. Like it simulates this post-apocalyptic world perfectly, and it is so much fun to explore. So much fun to explore, and I think you'll agree with me. You have played Last of Us 2, and hopefully you have. If you're watching this, you know, like I do, that part of the game's charm is the fact that the main gameplay mechanic is exploring this world with your friends. And so another thing, Last of Us 2 has less combat encounters than the first game. This is much more stealth oriented, and there's less encounters with infected, less encounters with humans, less encounters with bosses. Okay? So if you played the first Last of Us and you thought that the combat encounters with all the infected and got a little strenuous because of, you know, in this game, they're you know, few and far between these combat encounters, and when you do have them, they're a little easier to manage and they're not repetitive. Okay, in the first game, some of the mechanics of the first game can get a bit repetitive, you know, like pushing Ellie on the raft to the other side, you know, clearing this room and, you know, fighting this enemy. Like this game doesn't feel repetitive, doesn't feel like there's anything that's you're just repeating all the time and stuff like that. It's fucking great. Okay, so yeah, I give The Last of Us 2 11 out of 10. The music is perfect. The fact that the PlayStation 4 controller, you can actually play guitar with it, it's fucking genius. Everybody should make a separate save file when you get to the theater, and you can just sit there and pick up the guitar anytime you want, play guitar on PlayStation, you know, learn how to do it. All right. So, like I said, the characters are great. They're so realistic. You know, rest in peace, Joel. I like that, you know, Joel died, but, you know, he lived on in flashbacks, and you got to know his character even more. And so I'm excited. I hope Last of Us 3 is going to happen. I hope Last of Us 3 will be on PlayStation 5. It'll give me a reason to buy a PlayStation 5. Last of Us 2 was my reason I bought a PlayStation 4, and I'm so glad I did. It's my favorite game on the system. The game is epic. It's perfect in every conceivable way. Other than your first playthrough might be a little rough when you switch to Abby and you're trying to come to terms with now being forced to play as a character that the first 15 hours of the game you've been trained to hate. Once you're over that, once you played the game once and you're on your second playthrough, and New Game Plus is an option, you can finally just chill and enjoy the ride and soak in all the character development and actually enjoy Abby's portion of the game and not be so appalled by it, which a lot of people are. So I haven't watched any other reviews for The Last of Us 2 because I wanted to be completely spoiler free, so I just beat the game for the first time, bringing this all to you. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else in between throughout the multiverse and beyond. This has been the best review of The Last of Us 2 on the fucking internet. I hope you have enjoyed playing Last of Us 2 as much as I did. Play it again. If you beat it only once, play it again. I dare you. I dare you to play it at least twice through to completion. And I think you will have a better time playing it the second time than you did the first time. All right? So hell yeah. And, you know, a lot of people, they didn't know, hey, Last of Us is an RPG. It's a story-driven game. They thought they were going to get an action game, a mindless action game. And so a lot of people aren't going to understand this game. I think if you can appreciate high art, if you're in it for the ride, you're going to have fun. Just sit back, relax, and get ready to go into the apocalypse with The Last of Us Part 2. Ooh-wee. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe You liked the video, I like you. Didn't like the video, I still like you. All right, cool. All right, thanks for sharing. Share if you care. This has been The Last of Us 2 review.